Hi, this is Don AIREY from Deep Purple and you're watching MULATSCHAG, the only TV you'll ever need.
MULATSCHAG!
You're like the English musician, put it that way, because, you know, you're coming from the Northeast, you do live in the Southwest. Most of your musical comrades come from West Midlands.
That's right, yeah.
Birmingham. Have you ever been to Birmingham?
Oh, once or twice. I went there recently, actually, and we saw the penultimate Black Sabbath concert.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And it was amazing. They were Tony and Geezer were just incredible, and Ozzy. I could feel tears coming down my face when he sang War Pigs, and everybody joined in. So, looking back now, I'm very proud to be an English rock musician. After all everybody's achieved, and to be part of that great tradition. God knows how the English started it, considering how things were back in late 60s, early 70s. But there was a famous thing that, do you know what HP sauce is? It's kind of a brown sauce that the English love, ketchup and brown sauce. And of course there's a big factory there, and it's made with vinegar, and the vinegar vat burst, collapsed. And the streets around Aston, which is where Geezer and Ozzy and all them lived, were just flooded with vinegar. This tsunami of vinegar came rolling down the street, and it took about 6 months for them to get rid of the smell. It's a wonderful story. Ozzy tells it better than me. But
Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make a rock record.
Speaking of a band, which is now the band you've been in the longest time in your career. Yeah. I mean, it's 15 years.
50?
15.
I was going to say.
It feels like 50.
I must have been drinking too much brandy, Yeah, 15 years. When I joined, I thought, well, if this lasts a couple of years, it'll be all right, But, it was a bit of a shaky start. The band were very, disconcerted when John left, and it took them a time to find themselves again. And things weren't in a good shape with them. There was a rather loose attitude, I thought. And suddenly we noticed the audience was changing. It went from the silver-haired ponytail brigade, to this sea of young people. And suddenly it just started to go like that. And we were working 150 shows a year, which meant we were on the road over 200 days a year.
Successful record.
Successful records, yeah. When Now What came out, we didn't know what to think of Now What. We just did the best we could. And when it came out, it just whoosh. It was very gratifying. And, we suddenly realised we were a much better band than we thought we were. So it's been great. And, of course, we've just finished another record with Bob Ezrin that's coming out very shortly.
I was always curious, there you have, a couple hundred years of experience in a rock and roll studio. What's Bob Ezrin doing other than, hey guys, come on, let's start working,
I don't know, because all I know about Bob is he's 2 steps ahead of me and everybody else. He just has a plan in his head, and he just makes it all work. He's an amazing guy. And personally, I loved working with him. I found it very exciting. I got on well with him. Of course, my son is my keyboard tech and the stage manager for Deep Purple, and he developed a great regard for Bob as well. So just everything works well when Bob's around. He's a catalyst.
People can see it in the movie. You did a great movie about the making of the record, but it's more than a making of. It also shows the people that are involved.
Yeah, I think what it shows is we have a lot of fun while we do it, and there's a lot of humour, you know, between the guys, and especially between Bob, and between Bob and Steve Morse. There's there's a real funny thing going on, you know, and just you know, they say if you want to be in the music business, you got to make music, and there comes a point you can tour and tour, but sometime you got to sit down and come up with something good. You know, you got to make some more music, and that's what we tried to do.
Well, infinite is such a strong word. Who came up with it?
Well, Max Vaccaro, actually. I think we wanted to call it, the best idea we had was, you know, when we were talking amongst the band, what are we going to do? Well, we want to make it a bit heavier, a bit more musically challenging. And Gillan said, yeah, it's time for Bedlam. And he just came up with that. And that's what I thought the record was going to be called. But Max came up with the title Infinite. And we all just went, oh, great. We don't have to think of something. You know, let's go and have a drink.
There's one topic with Purple, always has been, that's soccer. Do you still talk a lot about it?
I don't think we talk of anything else, actually. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about soccer. You know, Gillan's a QPR, Queen's Park Rangers, Pacey supports Notts Forest, I support Sunderland. Roger doesn't support anybody, but he's tried to take an interest in Man United. You know, and he doesn't understand it, that's the trouble, but at least he tries. And Steve's just bewildered by it all.
Yeah. I can imagine.
And he talks about, you know, he tried to take an interest, and he talked about Mickey Rooney. Well, Wayne Rooney.
But Wayne Rooney, yeah.
From Man United, yeah. But Steve kind of got it confused and started calling him Mickey Rooney.
Oh, that was that small Hollywood actor, yeah, right?
In the 30s, very famous, but there was a wonderful thing that Mickey Rooney, there's a wonderful theatre in Sunderland called the Sunderland Empire. And about 5 years ago, a big thing was that Mickey Rooney got signed to do the pantomime, to be the evil Duke of something. And they got Mickey Rooney to come. So the local paper, there was a big headline, it said, Rooney signs for Sunderland. And of course everybody in the town thought, oh, Wayne Rooney's going to come and play for us at last, but it wasn't. And I kept it and showed it to Steve. You know.
Well, but you did play yourself soccer with Ritchie Blackmore.
Yeah, oh, we used to have one.
You also did play in a band with him, but
yeah, in Rainbow. But we had two teams. I think when we were making Difficult to Cure in Copenhagen, there was the Rainbow Select, which is Ritchie and all his friends and Roger and that. And the other team was the Sunderland Copenhagen All Stars, which was me and Colin Hart, the tour manager, who was from near Sunderland, both Sunderland supporters, and you know, the people who worked at the studio who all liked football. You know, the Danish are very good footballers. So during the course of the album, we had a series of contests, and I think there were 5 games. And it came to the 5th game, it was 2 games all. And in they had Bobby Rondinelli was in goal for Rainbow Select, and we got a corner in the last minute. I think it was 3-3 from the left. So I took it, and there was a bit of a wind, so I could do this trick, and I just floated up, and it went in, direct goal. So we won the series, and it was a tremendous. I think it's my greatest achievement, actually. And Ritchie stormed off because he'd lost. And he later sent a message via Roger saying, that was brilliant, well done.
Your main instrument in Deep Purple, there were some critics, when you joined, there were some critics who said, well, he's not really a Hammond player. Yeah. But you did start out, of course. What was it called? The Ivy League Social Club?
How do you know about that? Yeah, the Ivy Leaf Social Club in Sunderland, yeah. Had a Hammond organ with 2 Leslies and a PR40 tone cabinet. It was the most wonderful thing. It was a C3. And I used to go in there and play for dancing and back the cabaret. And they used to let me practice on it. And I'd discovered Jimmy Smith. So I had Jimmy Smith records and I tried to copy them and get the sounds that Jimmy did. And that's where I first started playing Hammond, yeah. And I always played Hammond in the clubs, and I think I had a Hammond with Colosseum as well.
Yeah, of course, Colosseum and Rainbow.
Yeah, and Rainbow. Yeah, so I'd always played Hammond, yeah. Though I was known more for synthesizers and... Yeah.
Well, from, let's say from... guitarists, rock stars, they're known for having their collection. I've once been to Eddie Van Halen's place. He has like his own house for his guitars, you know.
I believe Joe Bonamassa now owns 450 guitars. So, and he gets a new one every day and he puts it on Twitter.
What's your collection? Do you have your Hammond, your Falfisa, whatever?
Yeah, well, I always I've got a wife, 3 children, and 49 keyboards to support. But I've got I own 5 Hammonds. I've got quite a collection of Moog synthesizers. A clavinet, peernet, lots of weird and wonderful stuff you just collect. I think I own 15 Leslies, and I've got 2 Wurlitzer pianos. I've even got what do they call it? A Gibson Clavinova. I don't know whether you're familiar with the wonderful keyboard solo on Del Shannon's Runaway. As I walk along, I wonder what went wrong. Well, there's this amazing keyboard solo. And I've got one of those as well. It's a keyboard that Gibson made, and it's valve driven. And so, it's the most wonderful thing. Yeah.
I didn't even know that Gibson also did banjos and stuff like that.
Well, Gibson did amps as well in the 30s and 40s. You know, they got radios and used those as amps. And some people say they're the greatest amps ever made for a guitar. Yeah.
Speaking of collections, you've been working on, let's say, a couple hundred rock albums.
I've got some people that are doing, they called it doing forensic, and it's nearer 500 apparently.
So you don't really have a copy of each at home?
No. I mean, the people turn up, at the gigs, and I said, why am I signing this? Well, you're on it. Really? Some obscure album. Yeah.
Just recently, Steve Morris said about you and John, he's so pleased that he could work with 2 jazz giants.
Jazz? Well, I like jazz, but no, I'm proud of being a rock player. That's what I'm proud of. Everyone thinks rock's easy to play, but it's not. Everyone thinks they can do it. It's funny. I had a funny experience recently. I got a heavy metal award at Anaheim. The Heavy Metal Hall of Fame, which I was very pleased about. And I went to the NAMM show, the NAMM Musical Instrument Show in the convention centre there. I mean, it's marvellous. All this gear. I've never seen so much gear, and synthesizers and modulars, and 100,000 people a day coming through the door. All of them dressed as rock musicians, except for me. And I think that's what everybody thinks. It's so easy to do it, but it's not. I've always found it the most difficult form of music to play, actually.
You did work with so many great rock guitarists, but it's always, the guitarists are the rock gods in the front, and the keyboarder, they're always behind, right? Just don't name too many where it was troubling working with, from that point of view.
No, if somebody's any good, they're going to be difficult to work with because they'll have higher standards. Like Ritchie, or Gary Moore, or Randy Rhoads. But I can't ever recall it being unpleasant. Yeah. I've always, all I recall is it being challenging and enjoyable. When you get the end result. And John Lord summed it up. He said, the job of the keyboard player is to put a halo round the sound. And another thing, which I always try to do, is to support your guitarist. You just give them moral, musical support. Because as a keyboard player, you tend to know a lot more about music than they do. But they've got that raw inspiration that you just waiting to hear. There's nothing better for me than to walk into a rehearsal room and see a Marshall stack there, and somebody's going to plug into it. You're in for a good time. I love all that. That's your job. Yeah.
With your own program, when you're playing live, there is some Bach in it. There's even Mozart from time to time, but also Child in Time. Do you still do that song?
Yeah, we've been playing it. We weren't going to play it this tour, but the first gig, I suddenly looked at the clock. I thought, God, we've only been playing 15 minutes. But it's just been going down very well, especially in Czech Republic and Slovakia. People love that song. It means so much to them. And it's not so easy to play. And I hope we're doing it slightly different. I think with Carl's sentence, the way Carl sings it, gives a different slant.
Of course, Deep Purple is not performing it anymore, right?
No, I noticed that.
we don't get deeper into that. Yeah, one story must have been 2 or 3 years ago on some tour leg here in Austria, where you were sleeping overnight in the tour bus and there was no heating. Remember that?
Oh, it was down in Velden, yeah. Velden, yeah, very rock and roll. There had no rooms at the hotel, so there were 3 rooms, so I said, all the band were looking a bit ragged at the way I was treating them, so I said, I'll sleep on the bus. Oh, it was freezing. I slept right through though. God, when I woke up, it was cold, really cold.
That must have been an experience, being that rock star that you are.
Well, I'm just a musician, and if you want to be a musician, you've got to go out and play. And I have such fond memories of my early days, with Colosseum 2, that I wanted to do that again. So, just having met these wonderful musicians, Lawrence Cottle is a most wonderful bass player and musician, and it's like a privilege to work with him. We have such a great time. Got this wonderful guitar player called Simon McBride, a young drummer that I've known since he was 12, John Finnegan, and of course Carl and I have had a partnership for 10 years, writing songs and being great friends, and it's something we really.
And you all love the music you play.
Yeah, so we look forward to it. Yeah, we've done an album recently that might see the light of day soon. So yeah.
That you wrote.
Carl and I wrote the majority of it. Simon made quite a contribution, and so we'll see. It's just called working.
How was it for you when it comes to writing in Deep Purple?
Oh, that's a different process. What happens with Deep Purple is we all sit down in the room and Ian Pace goes, and we're off. And that's how they always do it. Yeah. It's an interesting way to do it.
But then there's this one song that really puts the Hammond up in front. All I Got Is You, which came out as a video.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's really your song on the record, right?
Yeah, I think I wrote most of it, as I remember. It's interesting. It's something Pacey says to everyone. He said, "You've got me. All I've got is you." Oh, he's an abusive man, you know. But we love him.
One more thing to guitarists. You've played with so many. Is there one where you never had the chance to play with?
Oh, Eddie Van Halen, yeah. I'm a big fan. Yeah, big fan. I think he's a wonderful player.
But you've met.
Oh, I know him, yeah. There was once, when Gary Moore first came to LA, he befriended Eddie, because for the first time in his life he heard someone that seriously frightened him, you know. And they came to a Rainbow gig at Long Beach. And they both looked so young, you know, especially Eddie. And Eddie wanted to meet Ritchie, you know. So I suddenly saw Ritchie come in. "Hey, Ritchie, wanted you to meet two people." "Yeah, who's it?" I said, "This is Gary Moore and this is Eddie Van Halen." And Ritchie kind of stormed off. I don't know what he thought I was trying to set him up or something.
Too much glory aside of him.
I don't know what it was, and anyone, "What did I say?" I said, "Oh, don't worry about it."
MULATSCHAG!
Hi, this is Don AIREY from Deep Purple, and you're watching MULATSCHAG, the only TV you'll ever need.
MULATSCHAG!